On Sunday on BBC One, the diary of an historic occasion, the Princess Royal in the Soviet Union.
Now on One, the lady with more complaints than a hypochondriac, Anne Robinson, and points of view.
Good evening, particularly to Mrs. Gilly Barlett of Littlehampton, who would like to complain
about an increasing number of early to mid-evening programmes that rely heavily on sexual content.
Points of View, of course, does nothing of the kind, but I can't speak for those disgusting people who appear with monotonous regularity every Wednesday at 8:05. Mrs. Barlett indeed noted.
A recent episode of Dallas had good old JR, fresh from the loving arms of his young wife, taking a post-bedding shower with a woman he hardly knew.
Meanwhile, at Clough Hall School, the girls are thankfully not in the least bit interested in JR's post-bedding showers, but...
all of us in 2M would like to see a photo of JR's son James, because we think he is dead.
Oh, I didn't know.
We think he's dead fit and gorgeous.
Well, perhaps 2M would also like to see a picture of Dot Cotton, who isn't at all dead fit. On the contrary, her evil son Nick, who is pretending to be a born-again Christian, is slowly trying to poison her, which isn't nice for Dot, not to mention Christians all over the place who think Nick Cotton is doing no good to their reputation.
It's bad enough Dot Cotton being portrayed as wet, naive, gossipy and out of touch, but now there's born-again son Nick, who's really a conniving con man and would-be murderer.
Says John Brindley, and Pastor P.G. Chamberlain of the Christian Fellowship writes...
myself and many of my friends have experienced nothing short of a life-changing conversion and a real commitment to faith in Jesus, and EastEnders dares to denigrate and deride this.
Mr. Chamberlain suggests the very least EastEnders can do is apologise or...
allow someone like the Evangelical Alliance to assist in writing future episodes.
Now, a variety of viewers appear to be under the impression that all manner of programmes are no longer to be seen on the BBC, but have gone upwards past you-know-who and on to you-know-where.
Yes, can you please tell us if we're going to get any cricket programmes on BBC Two this year? As I'm an OAP and cannot afford Sky.
Oh, yes, Mr. Green in Newbury, the BBC will show all the Test matches, all the one-day internationals, all the NatWest Trophy
But I
games.
suppose satellite TV has reared its ugly head and got the rights to televise the Grand Prix.
Unfortunately, Mr. Hutt, these will also be shown on BBC TV, either live or in highlight form, but almost certainly far too late at night or not at the times advertised by Grandstand in the Radio Times. Just warning.
Yes, but I've just read that the BBC has passed on to Sky TV its rights to show Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yes and no, Mr. Wiley. The new series of Star Trek, The Next Generation, will be shown first on BBC TV this autumn. The old series of Star Trek has been leased to Sky for a limited period. And before 10 million of you ask...
there are no plans to show Blake's 7.
And while we're on about satellite stations, KYTV the week before last attempted to take a satirical look at the war years, an attempt many of you thought was ill-advised. Mr. K.A. Webster of Bradford complained.
Satire is one thing, but this was a posthumous insult. Not only to those who could not answer back, but to those who fought and died so that rubbish like this could have a place in our society.
A Time Watch special, The Great Escape, looked back more seriously at Dunkirk through the personal accounts of survivors, but Arthur Jewett,
Formerly Lieutenant Colonel GSOI Intelligence Corps,
objected strongly to the format of the programme.
that the producers should wish to personalise part of the programme is reasonable enough, but that 4 men, however much we admire their courage, should take up half of the allotted 50 minutes is absurd.
Mr. Jewett goes on.
What could have been an exciting, uplifting and memorable example of the British making the best of a seemingly impossible situation turned out to be unworthy and unbalanced, and must have offended many mothers and wives who lost men there.
The bank holiday film Beverly Hills Cop has brought a great sackful of mail along the lines of...
I am writing to congratulate you on your brilliant dubbing of the film. The way you managed to transform meaningful and very funny sentences into total and utter gibberish was a masterpiece.
The thing about Beverly Hills Cops, it seems, is that a great many avid fans, like Mark Collins...
I've seen the original so many times, I could play Murphy's character myself.
And so there was much annoyance at the fiddling around and cleaning up, particularly, as Mark Collins also observed...
in the scene where Murphy argues with the hotel receptionist, the word nigger was not dubbed.
Right, here's what they say.
Several hundred swear words had to be removed because the film was shown before 9 o'clock in the evening. The word nigger was left in because it was there to establish the attitude of a character in the story.
And the culture gap between policemen here and cops in America was nicely illustrated last Saturday by Steve Coogan imagining a scene played by Clint Eastwood and Alan Bennett.
Alan Bennett is store detective with his partner, Clint Eastwood.
Okay, Alan, we gotta clean this scum from the supermarket and put a stop to this crime.
Yes, it's a game of intrigue, double bluff. and the systematic theft of Garibaldi and Hobnob biscuits.
Alan, I think we got us a shopping violation over at the express checkout. Where are you?
I'm at the pick and mix, but I'm on my way.
And talking of different attitudes, Present Imperfect, Paul Watson's magical documentary series, the Tuesday before last featured Thorny & Co. Thorny being Thornton Streeter, who used to earn fortunes in commodities in the city, but has fallen on hard times. Well, hardish times, down to his last GTI amuse house, and at 21, looking for a job in advertising.
We're obviously talking on the basis that these are the proper channels that one would need to go through to get a job. And I always never do that.
Oh, right. As long as I get a good agency that is not going to mind me going to France for a week and then, see, that's the problem. And then going to Ghana for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. That's the problem.
And here behind the hair, one of his flatmates. OK, yeah, Louise.
My parents came back and I'd left the car outside, all crunched up like a little sardine can. And I hadn't told them. I didn't think they were getting back at 7 o'clock in the morning. My father walked in and saw it sort of sitting outside. Yeah, what do you think? And no, they freaked. And Mum bought me a Rolex. And she came back and she said, I bought you a present, but you're not going to have it. Because you squished the car. She bought one for all of us.
And whether one found Thornton and Louise amusing people or pretty dreadful example of those privately educated beyond their intelligence, I suppose rather depended on whether one was also arrogant 21 and down to one's last GTI, or, as in Michael York's case,
transformed for an hour that night from a mild-mannered, middle-of-the-road conservative into a rabid Marxist.
Mr. York says, furthermore, he is quite prepared to believe
these overprivileged, snivelling reptiles exist in the bowels of SW whatever, but do we really have to have the details of their pathetic and disgusting lifestyles foisted on us through the mass medium of television?
Inside Story were pursuing beasts of an entirely different nature. None of them had GTIs, but nevertheless they still managed to travel great distances. Rats. Apparently on the increase, at least in Hackney, East London, but in West Dorset...
4 very irate pest officers
suggest
Inside Story should bring cameras down to West Dorset and we'll show them how it's really done.
There, apparently, they don't use cricket bats, as reported in Inside Story, and what's more...
the poison that was being placed in the ground in the film is only meant to be used in sewers, and the poison they put in the sewers, warfarin, is the sort used outside.
Also,
the film spoke of the risk of Weil's disease, then showed a person using rat poison and handling rats without wearing gloves, and another pest officer cutting his finger and sticking it in his mouth.
Which brings us to football, and an apology. Last week I suggested 20 million women would be yawning their way through the World Cup. I lied. It's only 19,999,999 because Margaret Goodham has written to say she can't wait for it to start. So she won't be the least upset. The points of view is away for a fortnight because of the football. See you in 3 weeks' time, and I'll leave you with a little bit of football. And even I know the names of all these players.
And here comes Hurts. He's got some people on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is now. It's 4.
On BBC2 shortly, spirits are lifted at the 4077 by the appointment of morale officers in MASH.
Nowhere else can a mile mean so much. They can mark the dividing line between freedom and death, between starvation and plenty. Frontiers. in 35 minutes.
And following Frontiers, our film tonight on One stars John Travolta in Brian De Palma's political thriller Blowout. In just under 5 minutes, Michael Burke rounds up the day's events in the 9 o'clock news. That follows a party political broadcast now by the Labour Party.